Alright guys, hey, it's Trell over at goHUNT. We're going to run through my 2023, this upcoming hunting season, kind of my bow setup. For some reason, people seem to be interested in what I'm shooting, so I just wanted to do a run through on all of the equipment that I'm going to be using for this upcoming archery season. I got a couple mule deer tags, going to pick up a over-the-counter elk tag in Colorado, so I'm hoping to get some bow hunting done this fall. So I'm going to start with the bow, which is a Mathews 2023 Phase 4 33-inch bow. That's the axle to axle, 33 inches. I like the string angle on that, so I got a little bit longer draw, 30-inch draw, so I like a longer axle to axle bow. Last year, the V3X was also 33 inches, almost the exact same profile and specs as this bow. And that one suited me really well. This one fits me really well as well. I just really seem to like a 33-inch axle-to-axle bow. Super forgiving, and I would highly suggest it for guys that are looking for a little bit more stability, Western big game hunters, or guys with a longer draw. Phase 4 is super quiet. That's one thing I will say right out of the gate. Setting this bow up, it's a noticeable difference both in the amount of hand shock and then also just the noise. Feedback in my hand isn't really necessarily a big deal for me, but it definitely is more dead in the hand and it definitely is more quiet. So for guys that are looking for a quieter setup, quieter bow, whitetail hunters that are hunting in close proximity, you know, all that sound makes a difference. So definitely check out the Phase 4 if you're looking for a new super quiet hunting bow. Moving over to the rest, I have a QAD Ultra rest. This is the integrated riser rest that just clips right in the Dovetail mount on this Mathews riser. It's really streamlined, stays right in line with the riser. There's no added parts or pieces to it. Historically, I haven't been a big fan of cable-driven rests. I've actually liked limb-driven rests. I've been playing with this one and I've actually had pretty good luck with it this spring. Seems to be really accurate. It's pretty simple. Took it on a Texas sheep hunt. I do like the fact that I can clip this thing up in an up position and it holds my arrow. That is a nice little benefit when you're stalking. Your arrow's not going to fall off your rest. It does come with a couple little quieting pads that you can use to put on the inside of the fork, so it keeps it nice and quiet. My bow, I do like to add an arrow holder in case I ever do need to put that in the down position. I can lay my arrow in that and I can put my thumb over the arrow if I ever am stalking, and I definitely don't want that arrow to move around, so that's why I've got that on the shelf of the riser. I also, on my risers, I like to get some adhesive backed foam. I just get that at my local Joann's craft store. I cut that out in the shape of the riser and I just cut that in and lay it in. And again, that's just to prevent any noise that could potentially happen if my arrow were to come off the rest or anything were to happen. I'm not fanatical, but I'm particular about noise, especially when it comes to my arrow and the rest and the riser. So that's how I work that. For my grip, normally I've been shooting Mathews bows off the riser, and I've had good luck with that, and I've liked the way that it felt. I have been shooting this Ultraview B-Reel 2 grip. The original B-Reel grip, for me, whatever reason, I couldn't quite get that to work for me, and I know that this is a similar shape. It's only slightly different, but whatever reason, I've really learned to like this grip. It's taken a little bit of adjustment in the position of my hand, but I do find it to be more consistent. I've got less left and right misses with this grip. It just seems to be really consistent. I noticed the other day I was up to the range shooting, finished my session, I jumped in the car, I was cruising home, turned and looked at my hand, and I could see that red outline of that grip in my hand, which to me indicates, you know, that it's consistent. I can see those lines in my hand. It means I'm getting a good feel and a consistent grip through my bow each and every time. So I really like that. One thing I actually really like about this grip is it keeps my finger, so my index, my pointer finger on the riser side here, it keeps it below the line of my broadhead. I have had at times shooting off the riser. I've never been cut, but if I cut my arrow short and I'm shooting a fixed blade broadhead, it has been dangerously close to that knuckle at times. So this does help me avoid that, which is another reason why I'm going to go to that grip in 2023. And like I said, generally I just think I'm more consistent with it. Moving up to my sight, this is a dialed archery ARXOS sight. I don't know how to say it. It's a little bit confusing and I don't understand why they named it that, but it is a really nice sight. It's got some things I really like about it, including the bubble level on the top. which is kind of a no-brainer to me. It's a whole lot easier to pick that bubble up in your peripheral vision as you're aiming and ensure that it's level. It's very streamlined, fits right inside the riser with this bridge lock technology. I do like that. It's got some quirks about it that I'm not necessarily fond of. I wished it had a locking mechanism that could lock that dial completely out. In saying that, I've never had one move. It is a nice smooth transition when you use that slider, but it's a good sight. The pins are super clear. It's got a little sliding adjustable brightness for your pin, which is nice. You know, that early morning light, you can slide that thing all the way back and it really brightens up your pin. You get into that midday, noon time frame and it's a little bit too bright, you can slide that closed and it does kind of dull that out. And I do like that feature. The adjustment on it is really smooth, like I said, and this for me is the first year I will have moved away from a fixed 5-pin or a 5-pin slider sight. This is a 3-pin sight. The individual pins are not adjustable. You basically got the top pin, middle pin that kind of sits in the middle of the up pin, and then a bottom aiming reference. For me, if I set this up at my top pin at 20 yards, my second pin's almost right at 40, and my third pin is pushing 60. So it's a nice little indicator of different yardages, and I feel like I can be really effective even in the elk woods if I get a bull that comes in and he's kind of moving through different shooting windows. The other thing I like about this sight is it's just fun to shoot. I can get 110 yards really easy with my middle pin, and using those second and third pins, I could probably stretch that thing out to 130 yards if I felt like it, which is kind of fun to just go up to the range and bomb some long range arrows. Overall, really solid sight. I've liked it a ton, and I think it's probably going to be the sight I'm going to run with this fall. Moving over to stabilizers, I've been playing with some different stabilizers. This is the Mathews bridge lock stabilizers. This is kind of a unique idea in the fact that they slide right in the riser, and you can just simply tighten it down with a set screw knob right here. This is on the back of it. The weights are dovetailed, and you kind of link those together and tighten them in so there's no screw that runs through it. You can slide these stabilizers in and out of the riser to kind of tune this bow for the amount of sound that goes through it and the amount of vibration. I've been playing with it and I actually really quite like it. I don't know ultimately if I'll end up using those two or if I'll end up going back to a set of bars, which I've used for a bunch of years, is these AAE Mountain Series stabilizers. This one is a 15-inch bar, which I've actually really liked. This year where I'm hunting mule deer, it's a little bit more open country. I probably will go back to a longer 15-inch bar. I can put a little less weight out front and I can still get the stability that I might out of a 12-inch stabilizer, a 10-inch stabilizer with 3 to 4 ounces. You know, I can use this 15-incher with maybe a couple ounces and get a similar feel. I like a little bit longer bar. I like to put the weight out further away from my bow and just helps me stabilize the whole setup completely. If I go that route, I'll end up going with a 10-inch AAE Mountain Series stabilizer. I typically run maybe 5 to 6 ounces on my back bar, and then more often than not, 3 to 5 ounces on my front bar. Gives me a nice stable aiming platform. It really balances well. And so, like I said, I've been playing with this. I don't know if ultimately I'll end up using it. I may end up going back to these AAE, but it'll either be one of the two. Going along with my stabilizers, I will be using this back bar bracket. I've used a back bar on my hunting bows since about 2009, I think. Just shooting some target archery, I saw the benefits of how that bow balances and holds with a back bar. I've hunted with one ever since. So to mount that back bar, I'm using a Shrewd Atlas back bar bracket, which personally is my favorite. You get both horizontal and vertical adjustment on that back bar bracket. It stays put. It's really, really well built and solid piece of equipment. So that'll go along with my stabilizer setup. I think that's it. As far as like overall specs on this bow, I'm actually shooting 65-pound mods, which is a benefit of these Mathews bows that use the switch weight cams, is you can adjust the draw weight by switching out the mods. So I've got the limbs totally buried. It's got 70-pound limbs, but then I'm using a 65-pound mod. Interestingly enough, with this setup, at 65 pounds with the mods, I'm actually shooting maybe 4 to 5 feet per second faster than my V3X at 70 pounds. So I'm getting more efficiency. I'm getting a faster arrow, faster trajectory out of this bow at 65 pounds than I was the V3X at 70 pounds. So, and I don't know exactly why that is. You know, there's a lot of factors that go into your feet per second on your arrows. It might be some of the strings, the way the bow's set up, but I am getting more feet per second at a lower poundage, which is a lot smoother to draw and to shoot. I'm not getting any younger, so I'm totally okay with shooting 65 pounds. I'm secure in that, and I feel like I can hunt mule deer, elk, anything in North America, and totally have enough penetration. Moving over to strings, if you're interested, these are high voltage bow strings. It's a 452X material. Halo serving, guy makes a phenomenal, his name's Austin Kincaid if you're looking for bow strings. We recently actually started carrying America's Best bow strings in the gear shop. That's a phenomenal set of strings. If you're looking for a quick set to just pick up, I would definitely consider checking out the goHUNT gear shop and just checking out America's Best bow strings. Moving up to a Peep, it's just your basic Radical Archery Designs Peep. It's a 5/32, which is kind of my preference as far as aperture goes. So that's kind of the bow setup. I'll jump over to my arrow release. My release I'm shooting is this Ultraview button release. I've shot a hinge for years and years. I had Chris B on my own podcast maybe a week or so ago. I was talking to him. I hadn't hunted pretty much with anything but a hinge release since about, like I said, that 2009-10 time frame. Had a really bad case of target panic, learned to shoot a hinge and just kind of taught myself how to activate a shot. And since then I've just been shooting a hinge because I never wanted to go back to that place where target panic like held me like it did. But I have been shooting this thumb button release. I shoot it almost exactly the same as I would a hinge release, in that I'm drawing that bow, I'm getting that barrel deep within my thumb, and I'm almost kind of pulling and dragging that button across my thumb, and I'm still using my back muscles to activate it. In doing so, I feel like I have a little bit more control because it does have a trigger. I also like the fact that it's got a string keeper and I can hang that from my D-loop. I found that last year when I was hunting and calling elk on my own, it was nice to be able to hang that release off the D-loop while I could still bugle with a bugle. And then that release was always ready as soon as I needed to draw my bow and execute a shot. It actually came in way more handy than I would have thought. If you're familiar with the hinge release, almost none of those have a closed hook. They're an open hook. So you're essentially pulling that thing out of your pocket, hooking it up to your release, and then executing a shot. So this does give me a slight advantage. I do like the heavy metal. So this is the stainless steel version of this release. I like the weight of it in my hand. I feel like I can relax my hand that much more because there is some weight to this release. They do make it in aluminum and a stainless steel version. My preference, like I said, is the stainless steel version. It's a little bit heavier. I cannot recommend this release enough. I think it's one of the nicest releases on the market if you're looking for like a high-end target type release and a release that's also awesome to hunt with. I cannot suggest this UV button enough, so check that out. Moving over to my arrow setup, I've tried a bunch of different arrows over the years. I've used gold tip platinum pierces. That's one of my very favorite arrows. I've used the Easton 4mm long range arrows. It's a good arrow. I've had good luck with it. I recently have been using Victory arrows. I like the fact that they are spine aligned, and I found that to be pretty true. I would say out of a dozen, there's almost no nock tuning required. If I fletch those up with the spine running down the top of the arrow, and each individual arrow is indicated, printed with the spine here on the top of the arrow, you can see. So I do really like that. This arrow is the Victory VAP TKO. This is a nice mid-weight arrow, I would say. Finished arrow weight for this complete arrow is going to be about 470 grains, which for me is right in the wheelhouse. I don't like a really heavy arrow. I would rather yield on the side of a flatter trajectory and potentially a little bit more accuracy in case I do misjudge an animal. I do prefer a flatter trajectory. I feel like 450 to 480 grains is kind of the wheelhouse. My FOC on this arrow, I would say is probably somewhere in that 12% range. I am using a 50 grain Easton titanium half out insert. So this is a 4mm insert that they initially made for the Easton injection 4mm arrows. You can still find these. I like the durability of the titanium, the straightness. So I am using an Easton insert. For broadhead, this is a Sever 1.5 mechanical, which I've had good luck with the last couple of years. I've used Slick Tricks, which is a really good broadhead. The Helix broadhead is a nice broadhead. There's a lot of really nice broadheads, including, you know, Slick Tricks, Sever, there's a ton of them. G5, Montec, there's a lot of really nice broadheads. I have been using this just because I feel like I get good flight, I get good penetration, and I think it's a quality head. For fletchings, I'm using Bohning heat vanes. So these are a stiff vane. They're a little bit more low profile than a blazer. I am using in a 4-fletch configuration. And primarily I'm doing that just so that I can rotate those arrows. If I have to do some Nock tuning, I've just got one more reference point that I can kind of turn that as I'm turning my Nocks and tuning each individual arrow. I haven't really had to do much of that with these Victory arrows because, like I said, they are spine aligned. It does have the spine printed on the shaft, so I haven't had to do a bunch of Nock tuning. But it is nice. I don't really notice per se that you get much more accuracy out of a 4-fletch versus a 3-fletch. But I do like the fact that it gives me ability to rotate that and tune each individual arrow. These heat vanes are super quiet. Like I said, they're low profile, which I like. They fletch up really nice. They stay stuck to the arrow. As far as glue goes, I'm using AAE Max Bond glue. It sticks. I mean, these things are really, really stuck onto the arrow. They're tough to get off, which is nice because I don't have to refletch a bunch of arrows by having vanes fall off. On the back end here, I am using a gold tip collar. This is the collar that you would get for their 166 Pierce arrows. These collars, they don't add a ton of protection, but I would say that in an average summer, if I'm shooting arrows every single day, it might save 2 or 3 arrows a summer where you get just a little bit of a deflection, where normally if you didn't have a collar, you might ruin the back end of that arrow. So I think it does save me a few arrows every year. Nocks, I'm shooting the gold tip 166 Nocks. I do think these Nocks are a little bit soft. I think there are probably better Nocks on the market, but I do feel like I'm getting the best Nock fit for this set of strings that I've got on my bow right now. I am in search of a slightly beefier, more hardy Nock that also provides me good Nock fit. Currently haven't really found one as of yet, so I'm still using those gold tip 166 Nocks on the back end. Like I said, total arrow weight, about 470 grains, which for me is right in the wheelhouse. Feet per second, I'm probably 200. I haven't put it through a chrono, but I'm probably 290 feet per second with this bow, which, like I said, it should do everything I want it to do in the field this fall. I finally got this bow. I've been working on it, you know, in the evenings, most nights, and really playing with it and fine-tuning it and tinkering with it. I finally got it to a point where I think it's about as dialed as I can possibly get it. It's shooting really, really well. And I'm excited. I'm excited to get out and shoot some more arrows this summer and then also get into the field this fall. If you guys got questions about anything that I've got on my bow, if you want recommendations or you have tuning questions, drop them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer those. If you got suggestions about gear that you like, drop it in the comments. I'd love to see it. So that's my setup for 2023. Good luck to all you guys that are headed out hunting this fall.